This week's team adventure. In today's adventure, I will be teaching you guys all about the water cycle. I will be doing a small demonstration and I will even be showing you guys how to create your very own water cycle in a bag. Now let's get started. So for today's activity, you are going to need the following materials. You're going to need a plastic bag, some tape, food coloring in any color, a black marker, and lastly, some water. So now that we got all of our materials, we're ready to get our water cycle in a bag started. So in order to get started, you're gonna need your plastic bag and your marker to start. So all I'm going to be doing is just drawing some clouds towards the top of the bag where you would normally zip it. And then I'm also going to be drawing some arrows from where the water is going to be upwards so that it symbolizes where the water will go once it evaporates. And it should look something like this. So now that we got our plastic bag with our drawings on it, we're ready to add in our water into our bag. So before we add in our water, we're gonna want to dye it using the food coloring. And all you have to do is just grab a water bottle and add in 3 to 4 drops of food coloring. Just like this. And as you could see, it does change the tint of the water to a bluish color. So now that we have our water, we're ready to add it into our plastic bag. So make sure to be careful and not spill it. You could even do this outside. And make sure that you're holding on to the bag because it will tilt over if you aren't holding it. So you could just slowly add in. Alright, so now that we got all of our water in there, we're just going to go ahead and seal up the bag at the top. And it should look something like that. So now that we got our water in the bag, in order to get the water cycle started, what we're going to need to do is place it somewhere near where the sun can hit it. Because what happens is that when the sun hits the bag, it's going to heat up the water, and the water that's in there is going to evaporate to the top of the bag. And once it condensates at the top, it will fall back down, and this cycle will be continuously repeating over and over. So in order to do this, I do have some tape, and you could do this at a window at home, but you just have to place the bag against the window and then tape both corners, and you could watch this cycle occur. So since that could take a while to occur, I did want to show you guys an example of the water cycle that can actually occur a lot faster. So in order to do this, I'm going to be using hot water, I'm going to be using ice, and this jar that I have here. The first thing that I'm going to be doing is adding in my hot water into the jar. You don't need too much. And then I'm also, just like I added to our other water cycle in a bag, I'm going to be adding some food coloring. And you will be able to see the power of the water cycle and how it could purify the water in the process. So now that we got our food coloring in there, I'm actually also going to be adding in some sand. So as you can see, we have the blue water with sand and all these other different things inside. So with the water cycle, although the water might not be clean at the surface, once this process occurs, it actually purifies it. So in order to do this, I'm actually going to be using some ice in a pot so that you could see how the water cycle can purify the water. And the reason why I'm adding the ice is so that there's a cold surface for the water that's in the jar to condensate onto, which is similar to what happens in clouds. So I'm just going to place it over the jar and the condensation will begin to occur. So I did leave this cold pan at the top sitting over the hot water in this jar for like 2 to 3 minutes, and as you could see, the condensation has begun to occur. And as you could see, the water is actually starting to drip down out from the pan and and back into the jar. And as you can see, it actually doesn't have the blue tint of the water at the bottom. And this is because when the water cycle occurs, it purifies the water. So this process is very similar to what we see in our daily lives, where the water will evaporate from our oceans or lakes or rivers, and it condensates in our atmosphere into clouds and then precipitates down back into a lake or an ocean. And this process is indefinite, so it will go on and on and on forever, and it never ends. And this is because we have the sun and we have water, and that allows for this process to occur indefinitely. And with that, we are actually going to conclude today's program. I hope you guys enjoyed today's program and you guys were able to learn more about the water cycle and how amazing this process is and how indefinite and how important it is in our daily lives. Be sure to stay tuned for the rest of our Earth Day programs that we will be hosting for the month of April. I'll see you guys in our next adventure.